Good evening, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Give me a little sip of tea right here. There we go. Good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing? Let's see what's going on here. Good evening, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Ace Hardware, Home Depot, Lowe's, the First Assembly of the Resurrection of the Pentecostal Pharisaical Church of Elton, Georgia, of Elton John, Georgia. How's everybody doing this evening? Oh, Ava and I just woke up. We laid down and took us a hard nap. You know how sometimes you take a nap and then you lay down and you just take a hard nap. Like you don't even know where you at, if you ever been born, what's going on. You just wake up like, what in the world? Yeah, it's cold here in Atlanta tonight, y'all. It's wet. I'm going to have another day of rain tomorrow and a rain tonight. And I keep getting these little pop-ups of weather alerts about flooding and all across Georgia. But good evening, everybody, TikTok and all you good people out there. Did anything happen in politics today? Did anybody go to jail? I guess I want everybody to be going to jail, but we don't have a Justice Department anymore. So anyhow, I'm having me a little sip of hot tea with a little spoonful of honey in it. A tea called Throat Coat, and they got different ingredients of it. This one, the one I like the best, is called Slippery M, and it's a good warm herbal tea on a cold February night here in Atlanta. It's been snowing here all day, Marla says. I made vegetable soup. Good. I saw that on Facebook where you made a vegetable soup with some meatballs in it or something. I love that. What I do is I make a pot of vegetable soup occasionally, but I really love it when all the stuff is fresh. And I go down here to the Georgia Farmers Market, which is like 10 minutes below my house. And I buy I like the white corn, the silver cream corn, and I scrape it off the cob manually instead of just pouring frozen corn, and scrape it off, and then I fresh okra and dice it up, and some celery and not cucumbers, but onions, and I like a tomato kind of a red tomato based kind of vegetable soup, broth or whatever, the soup part of it. But I love fresh vegetable soup. Yeah, it's good. So, but anyhow, Heather wants to know, what are we talking about tonight? Well, I don't know. Who can we talk about tonight? I actually don't. Sometimes I come on here and I have something that's kind of laying on me I want to talk about. And then sometimes I just come on here to piddle and diddle and daddle, and somehow the conversation just kind of leads to where we're going. And so I'm kind of open to the flow this evening, the vibration, and whatever goes on. I don't feel real passionate tonight about anything. Trumponomics, Dennis says over on Facebook. I will tell y'all this. I was kind of housebound all day, so I did a little painting on my living room. I painted my living room maybe about a year or so ago, and I just didn't like it. I thought I would, and so I repainted my living room today. Good evening, Velo. Top of the evening to you. And but anyhow, I did that today, and Ava didn't get home till about 5:30 or so. So we didn't get our walking today. The weather's just so cold and wet, and we've been real good over the last over 2 years and some months of never missing a day walking. Musk is in the White House. Good Lord, isn't that a mess up there? Isn't it a mess up there? Hey, y'all, I went over. There's a little place over on Virginia Avenue, and called Barbecue Kitchen. It ain't that good. I'm sure nobody's listening to me that lives around me that would do that. But anyhow, it was just I went over there. They do have a little plate of barbecues or Brunswick stew that's pretty good. Yeah, it's 34 in New Jersey. I could use some. Isn't soup's kind of like food for the soul, isn't it? I like a good corn chowder. Ooh, isn't that good? I like a good corn chowder. Don't I get diverted real easy? Squirrel. Um, um, but for people that know how to make it, a good cup of gumbo's good too. I don't know how to make it. Uh, uh, so you went to Roosevelt High School? Yes, I did. I went there. Went to Grant Park Elementary School. Then I went to Roosevelt High School. Me and my cousins and a bunch of us from Cabbagetown. I had city barbecue for dinner tonight. You know, barbecue to me is kind of very comforting. And a good plate of barbecue or a barbecue sandwich. Um, there's a place right over here off of Stewart Avenue. Well, I still call it Stewart Avenue. What is it? Because it's called something else now. But man, there's a baseball player opened it up. I can't think of the name of it, but it's good. That was a mess in the White House. But Atlanta has all kind of good barbecue places around it. There's a place over on Memorial Drive right there at the end of Oakland Cemetery called Das Barbecue, DAS. Oh, it's good, you know. And the Pit Boss right here in Hateville. Oh, a stuffed baked potato. Isn't that good? I used to like I was going to tell y'all though, I went over doing good, Thomas. I feel good. I feel healthy. I feel breathing and working and alert. And I just woke up from a hard nap, but I've had a good day. But I went over to barbecue chicken and just going to grab me a bite to eat. It's about 2:00 and hadn't eaten nothing all day. So when I go in, Rusty Couch, the pastor of Jefferson Avenue Baptist Church, I sat down and I looked, and he's sitting at the booth right across from me. And he's, Eddie, I'm Rusty. And he's like, come on over. So he bought my lunch. Ain't that sweet? I ordered like a $15 plate of barbecue and unsweet tea. And he ordered some meatloaf or whatever, but he picked up the tab for us. And we sat there for about a good hour. A very, yeah, Pit Boss is good, Heather. Yeah, what I was going to say, Margaret, you remember back years ago, they had all these barbecue houses, Weston Sizzling, Ponderosa, Bonanza, Steak and Ale. And you could go to these barbecue houses, you get a baked potato loaded and smothered and covered or whatever. They put some sour cream on it, some butter and a little bit of chives. And oh my God, baked potato is so good, isn't it? So good. I have kinfolk from Cabbagetown. I went to Headland High School in East Point. Interesting there, Bones. I live in East Point now. I live in a little neighborhood called Jefferson Park over here at East Point. I'm telling y'all, East Point, I've had a pastor friend of mine, Jim Swilly. He's had two of his sons that one of them bought a house 4 doors down from me, and one of them bought a house right up around the corner from me. And both of his sons are pretty legit rock people. You know, I'm not going to get on here and tell who they are and promote them, but they're pretty known in the rock music business. East Point's kind of a big deal. You know, people's really, because I'm telling y'all, Atlanta's got so expensive. Who can buy in Atlanta proper? You know, a house in Cabbagetown, they got houses in Cabbagetown, my daughter's neighborhood over there now, selling for over $1 million for a house in Cabbagetown. You could have bought the whole 2,200 houses or whatever it is in Cabbagetown 20 years ago for $500,000. You could have bought every house in the neighborhood, all of them, all 2,200 of them. And but East Point, yeah, I love East Point. So anyway, but I was sitting there. Can y'all picture this though? This Eddie Williams Sellers, this very progressive, very kind of anti-evangelical person sitting there for over an hour with Rusty Couch, Southern Baptist preacher of Jefferson Avenue Baptist Church, him buying my lunch. We talked a little bit about politics, but not much. Hey, Ronaldo, good evening to you. Good to see you on here also. I remember when the bike track was built on Norman Beer. Yeah, that Valoom or something is they got over there, and you can rent bikes or whatever. It's like a bike stadium thing. The bikes don't have no brakes on them, so once you get going, you have to work your way back down. Ava, what is the name of that bike place over there? She's got her earphone. The place over there, the Valoom or something where you ride them bikes. Velodrome. It's good living with younger people. They can remember stuff. Ava said, I can't remember shit. I'm telling you, she's worse than I am. Yeah, there is a big age difference, but good Lord, her mind slips more than mine does.
That's because I got a lot going on.
You hear? That's because she's got a lot going on, y'all.
I am busy.
I did. I got a haircut the other day, Heather. I went by and got it trimmed. It gets all grown. Yeah, you told me what was that wrong with the back of my neck, and you're like, oh, you got a haircut. I guess I skimped the back of my neck up. Michelle says, love you two so much. Super adorable. Thank you. My elementary school, Bones says, was Central Park on Sims Street. They did have a building down there on Sims Street that used to be a school. I don't think it's a school no more, even if it's still there. But I do call it. The properties in Rome, Georgia, seem to be way high as well. Yeah, I'm a kind of a look online real estate. Not addict. I don't like the word addict, but I've always just loved keeping up with real estate. It don't matter where you go. Newnan, Rome, Adairsville, Cartersville, man, it's like, good Lord. Little country houses, you think, oh, that'd be cute on 2 acres of land for if it was like $49,000. No, $325,000. I'm like, good Lord, what's wrong with everybody? I'm telling y'all, and I own a couple of properties, this house and whatever. I'm not telling my business, but I think it would behoove, and I have to be careful saying it would behoove people if house prices kind of collapsed a little bit and make it back where people could afford to go buy a house, and evidently these people buying them because these little houses that'll pop up around the shop over there in Grant Park, they be $850,000, $912,000, whatever, and they just go under contract. I'm like, who are these people that can afford? To me, maybe it's just I'm older, but I've lived long enough that I kind of realize that once a month comes around often. I mean, every 30 days, it's like, bam, bam, it's the first of the month again, bam, the first of the month again. You got a house payment of $9,000, $10,000 every month. Who can afford that? Evidently, a lot of people all over New York, Miami, Atlanta, a lot of people can afford it. We kind of need another housing crash, a reset. Things got crazy. Things got way crazy. So anyway, y'all, but anyhow, me and Rusty sat there and there's to me, I always have to do this compartmentalize people that are Trump supporters and evangelicals and MAGA kind of people. I have to compartmentalize that. If you just compartmentalize that part of them and set it aside, then you get to experience the real sweet other sides of them, and it's really almost discombobulating. It's like you're just wading through weird stuff, and I just made the point to him. I'm like, you can't sit there and say, somebody can't sit there and say, I'm not a Nazi just because I voted for a Nazi doesn't mean I'm a Nazi. Well, my God, if you voted for them, it kind of tells the tale on you who you are, and I don't know if I get in trouble by even using the word Nazi. I live on Lake Sinclair right now, but we're moving back to our mountain house in Tennessee. Well, good Lord, you just moving from glory to glory, ain't you? From Lake Sinclair to a mountain house in Tennessee. Isn't Tennessee pretty up there? Yeah, so pretty up there. But anyway, I will tell you this though. He was he You know how I'm kind of full of it. For all the good evening, Miss Lexi. For all the times I say somebody else is full of shit, like yesterday we was talking about Susan Collins, Senator from Maine. I'm like, isn't she just full of dog shit? Well, y'all know I'm also full of shit sometimes too. So, but I'm smirky and I'm kind of comedic, and I find humor in everything. So, good evening, Lexi. So we're sitting there, and I'm talking to Rusty, this Southern Baptist pastor right up the street here. Big, 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 beautiful church, Jefferson Avenue Baptist Church, and he's putting in some. This is so Southern Baptist and so Southern. Well, at the barbecue place up here, they brought out some biscuits, and Rusty's sitting there. He's having meatloaf, but he's taking them biscuits and putting in some grape jelly, smearing them on the biscuit. He's about to eat him some jelly biscuits with meatloaf. It's so country, it's so Southern. And so he leans over as he's putting his grape jelly on his biscuit, and he said, I ain't one of them crazy MAGA people, though, don't you? And I kind of smirked and laughed, like, yeah, you worse. He's like, what? I said, you Baptist. And he's a pastor of a Baptist. I said, you worse than MAGA. You a Baptist. But anyway, it is what it is, and I'll tell y'all something else too, though. I want to share, as they always say, I want to share with y'all. I want to tell y'all this. Thank y'all for the hearts and the follows and everything's going on over here on TikTok. Good evening, TikTok. Eddie Williams Sellers coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia on a cold, cold, wet, damp night. Sitting here having a cup of hot tea with a little spoonful of honey in it. Ava's in there laying on the bed, and she's already called it a day. And it is almost 8:30. When I was there, I think Bannister was mayor. So thank y'all. Y'all come on in the room. Come on, say hello. Quit being shy and bashful and standing back there. It's like you over there and you on the dance floor and you keep standing there, but you got your arms like this, and that's letting people know that you're not approachable. Put your arms down, relax. Come on, let's have a dance. I'll take you out on the dance floor. Let's go do the what did they use? The boot scoot and boogie. Come on. Let's get on the dance floor and do some. Hey, Ronaldo, let's do some boot scoot and boogie. But anyhow, we'll tell y'all this. Hey, Miss Paula over on Facebook. Good evening to you there. It has been years. It's 77 degrees in Tifton, Georgia today. Oh, my goodness. Emily, this cold must not have got that far south down to Tifton, because it was cold all day here in Atlanta, just rainy and cold. It's cold tonight too. I went to a Pentecostal church once, and it scared the hell out of me. I got up and left. People used to do that. Not at my church. When I pastored a church, we didn't do this where people get up speaking in tongues and yea, saith the Lord, and all. Pentecostal churches could be kind of spooky. And but a lot of people, it kind of terrified them when if you imagine if somebody's never been around it and people start doing all that, and then and then people would come out in the audience in some Pentecostal churches and lay their hands on people, and they start prophesying over, yea, saith the Lord. Well, if you ain't never been around that scared the dog shit out of you. You just jump up and run out, say, whoa, no, I don't want to be a part of none of that. Yeah, I can imagine if you was raised Lutheran, that would be discombobulating. It made God a little scary, actually, because the people that's usually doing that, they're a little scary, And what Emily says, I'm a retired Southern Baptist. If you're Southern Baptist, you can't never retire from it. It's cold here in LB, California. So it scared a lot of people. But anyhow, y'all, I was on my mantle in here. I was painting my living room today, and I have an AM/FM radio. So I put it on AM. Do y'all know they still radio stations on the AM? You know, WSB is a big radio station here in Atlanta. It's AM and FM. But anyhow, for about 2 or 3 hours, I had the radio station on, and some Eric Erickson, some conservative guy from Middle Georgia. It was, I guess he's nationally radioized or whatever. And man, what a dingbat this guy is, you know. And I just had the AS, you know, scratchy and all like that. My favorite place to eat was the Zestos in East Point. Yeah, that one's been long closed up here. I used to like the fact that I was raised Southern Baptist. My mama made sure that I got religion before I joined the military. I used to listen to Neil Bortz. Yeah. I think his name's Eric Erickson. So anyhow, I'm painting my living room today, and for about 2 or 3 hours, I got him on in the background, and I'm thinking, my God, no wonder the country is so screwed up. Listen to this guy, and he's supposed to be the intellectual voice of the conservative right, and he's saying things like, for instance, he said, the most racist people in the world are white progressive women. You know, I'm like, dude, what kind of crack are you smoking? You know, and just to hear some of the comments he made, and then he said, "I am incensed. I am incensed that now that Donald Trump's in office, the Democrats are complaining about the price of eggs." And I'm thinking, dude, you're a political pundit, you know. Haven't you understood politics is always the side that's in office? The other side is going to rip them a new asshole every time they can. That's just the political monster that we live in. It's always been like that. You know, when Jimmy Carter was president, the Republicans just hated him with a passion. When George W. was president, the Democrats just hated him with a passion, found everything they could wrong with him. And this guy who's been on the radio for 20 years and supposedly has all this knowledge, and he's a political pundit like a Neil Bortz or Sean Hannity. Oh, I am incensed, he would say, that the Democrats are now upset about the price of eggs. Yeah, it's just so silly. You know what I believe, y'all? I believe these conservatives, I don't call them conservatives, these I don't know what to call them, but these Sean Hannity's and these Neil Bortz is retired now. I just said that because somebody said that. Good heavens. People trying to knock me off TikTok. But what was I saying? I don't think these people believe half of what they're doing. I think it's a money thing. I think if you're making that kind of money and you know who you're talking to and you know your audience, I think they say all that. And I guarantee you, if you sat and had a beer with some of them and you say, Sean Hannity, do you really believe blah, 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 blah? He said, oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. But it makes them money. It keeps them popular with the wacko side. It's weird, isn't it? It's weird. Some comments in this live have been filtered to protect the community's experience. Boy, it's barbecue. Yeah, that's where I ate at today, Emily. Barbecue Kitchen on Virginia Avenue. That's where they made the best biscuits and a good old country cook. Yeah, it's still open. At one time, it was, if I ain't mistaken, at one time it was Black owned, and now I think they sold to Asian people, and I don't know. It just seems odd that Asian people back here trying to cook Southern soul Black food. It's different. It's not as good. Here's been my MAGA picked the price of eggs instead of humanity. Yeah, here's been my experience with eating. If you ever can peek back and see the kitchen area, and you see 2 or 3 heavyset Black women back there cooking, you know you're about to get some real food, real food. And I remember the one time I went to Mrs. Wilkes' boarding house. Oh, it was the best fried chicken. President Obama had ate there the week before Ava and I went. I got your book last week. Really enjoyed it. Thank you, Rick. Thank y'all. Y'all, a lot of people have ordered my book. Thank y'all. I got a W-9 on it. I've got to turn in on my taxes. I've sold enough of them that I've got to pay some taxes on it. But I love it. Thank y'all. Don't biscuits and gravy sound good? I'm telling you, Marlis, I've always said this. If I was on, that whatever they say on death row, and you got you one last meal before they pull the plug on you, I'd probably say just bring me some good homemade biscuits and some gravy. Some biscuits and gravy. Maybe put me a little bit of apple butter on it or syrup. Yeah, I love biscuits. Me and Rusty was sitting there today. We were tearing them biscuits up. They said us them heavy biscuits too, homemade biscuits. The other part is about not losing possession of power and land. Yes, I get that. Where do I get it? As far as the book, if that's what you're talking about, you can Google Eddie Williams Sellers, my name, on Amazon.com. And the book's called The Cabbagetown Years. My life in biscuits and sawmill. You're making me hungry, and I ain't had no dinner yet either. The book's on Amazon. Eddie Williams Sellers, The Cabbagetown Years, My Life and Stories, and it's a book that I'm kind of proud of. I told some pretty harsh stuff in that, and it was everyone needs to read Eddie's book. Yeah, thank you, Marlis. And I think it's on Kindle too. A lot of people like to just download their on their iPad or whatever and read stuff. Do you sell signed autograph books? Allie asked. I have one book. People come. I had a couple of people come by the shop a week or two ago. Two different people who had ordered it. I always have some for sale on the counter at A1 Blueprint over here on Boulevard, and I'll autograph those. And I've had other people that ordered them online and then come over and. I had somebody so sweet that I tell in the book how I loved pork and beans, and what else was I said? Something else I loved, pork and beans and something else. I had somebody ordered the book and wrote it and brought me a gift bag back by at the shop and gave it to me, and it was a can of pork and beans and 2 or 3 other little things I mentioned in the book that I loved as a kid. I just thought it was so sweet, Yeah. Well, Russ, he says, Eddie, does your book happen to talk about your religious trauma, if any? I do talk. I don't know how to talk without talking about religion. I don't know how to write my morning post without writing about religion. My morning post this morning is there a God or is there not a God in that context? So the things that fascinate me throughout my life is religion, because I'm fascinated with the fact how religion could cause some people to fly planes into buildings. I'm fascinated by the fact that evangelical religion can cause a mother to tell her son he's no longer welcome in her home because he's a homosexual. Religion's powerful, what it can do. And so I'm just fascinated by that. I'm not fascinated so much that it's an escape from reality and there's a heaven and hell and all like that. That's kind of like, yeah, whatever. I'm just fascinated by it. And I'm fascinated by politics, how people can vote against their own self-interest, and the store is 328 Boulevard. If you just Google A1 Blue, the number 1 blue.com, it's got our website, where we're located, phone numbers, all that. It became fairly popular during the campaign. I had the Harris campaign out there doing videos and putting us on their website. And I had tons of people coming by every day for weeks and weeks to take pictures and autographs and do video. There's on my TikTok, there's probably 1,000 videos on there of people talking about their hopes and dreams for America. And hope you and your loved ones are doing well, Eddie. Yeah, we are. Life's good. You know, life's not always going to be good. Life has not always been good in my past. I've had some real dark roads I had to walk down. But tonight, here on this cold night in Atlanta, Georgia, sitting here having my cup of tea, life's okay right now. It's pretty good. Russ says, I ask because I love God, but I can no longer take part in organized religion. I love your insight. Thank you there, Russ. Spirituality is a progress. And we talked last night about deconstructing. And I think most of us at some point has to go on our self-discovery journey. And I'm just going to tell you my analogy of this. The more we come to know who we are, the more we come to know who God is. The more we start to understand our own self, the more we connect with the spiritual vibration of the higher energy source in life. To know God is to know oneself. For how could we know a creator if we're not even familiar with our own creation? And so my thing is it's yeah, you know, and I would tell people this. I was raised up where that we were taught never question anything. Don't you question God. God knows what's best. Never question anything in the Bible. Don't question any of it. Well, it almost seems like the whole Garden of Eden thing where God told Adam and Eve, it's a metaphorical story, I believe. You can do all this, but don't touch that. And deconstruction is us taking a bite of the apple, in a sense. And if you notice what the scripture said, it said, you know, we have to put them out of the garden lest they become gods like we are gods. And the more that you peel back that onion of, it used to be who was God in my earlier life? Who is God? Well, people's like, well, the Lord Jesus Christ, no, he's God Almighty. That's God. And then there's this arrogance in Christianity. I feel like it's very arrogant when I hear people now. They post it on Facebook all the time, whatever. Jesus is the only way to heaven. Jesus is the only way to heaven. No, he's not. No, he's not. I don't even think Jesus would be comfortable saying that. Jesus even said there's other people that's not of our fold. Leave them alone. They're out there doing their stuff. But it's very arrogant. Jesus is the only way. But my thing is I think the more you question all that, yeah, you go down some roads doing it, but it's very freeing. It's very freeing. So, but anyhow, good evening, everybody. Coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia, on a cold, rainy night. Sitting here having a cup of tea, just babbling. I ain't got nothing really to say. Just saying hello to a few people. Selling a few books, I see. Yeah, it is weird, isn't it? I'm hoping to get Ava and I are working on a book about the 15 years we've been together and the places we've had to come through and deal with as a relationship, and her being a trans female and us making it through that and still happy and loving each other. And I'm in Atlanta forever, one Coco. I'm in East Point, actually, which is about 5 miles from downtown Atlanta. I wish but if you're very wealthy, if you got one of them pretty homes down around Savannah that I could come and stay at sometimes, I love Savannah. Marla said, when my husband came home from Vietnam, he didn't want anything to do with religion. That's kind of weird that my cousin Richard went to Vietnam. He came back and he was raised in all the Pentecostal and all that stuff. He never ever went to church after he came back from Vietnam. And he never was religious after that experience. That is odd that Marla mentioned that. No, I haven't moved. I'm still, I've been here in East Point for 15 years. Thank you again for doing this. I always try to catch you here on Facebook. Yeah. Well, good. Well, good. Thank you there, Ronaldo. Marlis mentioned that her husband came back from Vietnam. My cousin Richard, who's passed now, he came back from Vietnam, and he never did connect back with any kind of worship or God or church after that. And thank you, Vicki. Marla says, we have been married for 55 years and never went to church together. Well, good. That must be a good man for you to stay with him for 55 years, and you must be a good woman for him to stay with you. It's a rainy night in Georgia. Great song. Love your voice. It's so common. Call me D. Just ordered your book on Kindle. Thank you, Emily. But I will tell you about my cousin Richard. One time, he never talked about his experience in Vietnam. He just never talked about it. And I remember when we were young, I asked him one time, we go fishing all the time, and I asked him, I'm like, Richard, did you ever kill anybody? Well, unalive anybody? TikTok's going to flag me and throw me off the air. And he just simply told me, he said, Eddie, I don't like to talk about it. So I just prefer not to talk about it. And all the years after that, he never would talk about what happened in Vietnam. But he never did care to get tied up in religion and church and all that stuff. Although his mama, my Aunt Corrine, she was a prophetess. I mean, I'm telling you, his mama she just walk up to you and she said, God told me to tell you that blah, 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 blah. And about 9 out of 10 times, she was dead on the money, And I think my experience with some of my aunts that were very prophetic, and I know a lot of you people are like, it's a bunch of kooky bullshit. None of that stuff's real. But I'm telling you, when you've been around it, I think a lot of prophetic type people, they just use religion as a conduit, just like other people uses tarot cards or stuff. The Pentecostal way of religion was like tarot cards to them. They just call you out. My God, how did they know that? But I think they tapped into something, and so it was very interesting, And even my cousin Danny, I went by to see my cousin Danny yesterday or the day before, and we were sitting on his front porch talking. And Danny was like my right-hand man for 15 years when I would go in and out. If I went in and out of hospitals praying for people, in hospices praying for people, Danny was always like right at my right hand, there right with me. And just out of the blue, we were talking on his porch a couple of days ago, and he says, Eddie, all those times when I went with you inside those rooms, he said, Eddie, that was something real about that. I watched people get well. I watched people sit up in the bed, and something happened in those rooms. And and I told Danny, I said, Danny, there's no doubt that something happened. Heartbreak makes you hate God, and healing brings, I don't know if I could ever hate. Can I just share with y'all this? Maybe some people are born with it. I never learned how to hate. I don't know how to hate somebody. And my ex-wife of 20 years, when I pastored a church and she went to church with me every time the doors was open, Kathy was a really good helpmate, and she was a big part of the ministry too. And but she used to tell me often, Eddie, you're too forgiving. Because in church stuff, you get people say all kind of bad stuff about you, and then they'd be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that," or you loan people money, they never pay you back. Help people get off the street, rent them an apartment, and then they turn around and go out and talk about you like you're the worst person in the world. I mean, this is all part of church stuff. I never learned how to hold it against people that did that. So Kathy would tell me often, she said, Eddie, you're just too forgiving of everybody. And I said, well, I like that about myself. Somebody could, do something real nasty toward me. And I'd be like, oh, they just having a bad time. Just don't hope, just so what? Just move on. Love them anyway, And so as far as the question about heartbreak makes you hate, maybe even if one of my kids or grandkids got like one of these TV shows, something horrible happened, and the person was in court, yeah, I'd probably want to kill them, but I probably want to unalive them. I probably want to see them go to the electric chair. I don't know how to hate them, but maybe I could learn that. Maybe it'll take something like that where I would do that. But anyway, y'all, yeah. Yeah, healing does bring you back. I have this weird soul relationship with God, higher force, vibration, universe, whatever. I think there's a part of me that feels almost like an atheist when it comes to evangelical Christianity, with Muslim, with Jewish doctrines, with Hindu. I feel like I'm almost atheist toward all that. Like that God to me holds no water. But yeah, hate is overrated, Dennis. But the opposite of that, Dennis, some people just barely had a little something to say to them, and 20 years later, though, I ain't got a bit of use for that person. That person called me a fat slob back in 1978. I never would have had no use for him. My God, wouldn't you hate to be that? Wouldn't you hate to be like that person that just holds stuff so many years? You just hold stuff against people. But anyhow, what I'm saying is, there's times where I feel like an atheist, but an atheist compartmentalized toward evangelical Christianity, Southern Baptist. I feel atheist toward all that. That God, whoever that God is, it looks like I feel like an atheist. I feel very deeply connected to setting out in the mornings when I make my way out here in the spring to sit in my garden and do my writing, or in the morning when I get up, I'll light my little fireplace and sit here in the dark. And just in the early morning before it gets daylight, man, my breath just kind of connects me to whatever it is that God is. And in my younger years, Vicki has a lot to read right now. I'll read it later. In my younger years, it was a big theological debate about who was God. Was Jesus God in the flesh? Was Jehovah? Who was God? Was Allah a God? Was Allah compete against Jehovah? Who was God? I left all that behind years ago, the questions about who is God. Now, in this part of my spiritual journey, it's more about what is God. Do you see God in everybody? Do you see God in the rainbow? What is God? Is God the ocean that's churning all around Earth tonight? The energy that caused that wave to go out and then come back in. All the vibrations, the energies on Earth. What is God? God is it all. It's all of it, And but anyway, y'all, do I still pray? Oh, yeah. Russ over here says, do I still pray? Not only do I pray, I still have people. I could read y'all a text. My ex-wife, my former wife, Kathy, who I'm still very close with. We were married for 20 years, Jill and Heather's mama. And she had breast cancer a year ago. And so she was a part of, when I pastored a church for all those years, I was married to her. And so she's seen the tent revivals. She's seen people healed. She's seen people lifted up. She's seen the energy of the Holy Ghost, as we called that movement then. And so 2 or 3 weeks ago, she was going the next morning to get her year checkup to see all the examinations if her cancer had came back. And I could tell she was worried about it, because they said if it comes back, it'll come back a lot more aggressive and maybe have to do the not amputations, but the removal of the breast or whatever. And so she texted me the night before she was going to go the next morning, maybe 3 weeks ago. And she says, Eddie, I want you to pray tonight for me. And I want you to pray like you prayed under those tent revivals when you had the anointing and you laid hands on people. I wish you'd pray that way for me tonight, that God will protect me and go with me and let me be okay. And so I told her, I said, I got it, will do. And so that night, as I went in my bedroom, I got down on my knees. It's hard when you're almost 70. You know, you need, as I've learned, you need a little cushion to put your knees. Got down on my knees and I said, in Jesus' name, Lord, be near her, go with her, touch her, watch over her, give her comfort, give her peace. And so I still can tap into that creative energy. And so to answer your question, Russ, yes, I do still pray. Not much. I don't, it's not ritual to me now. For maybe 20 years, every morning when I would wake up before I'd have a cup of coffee, when I lived in Henry County, the ensuite off of the main bedroom, I'd go into the little bathroom off the bedroom and I'd start every morning off kneeling down and praying in the bathroom for 20 years. Heather, my daughter Heather says, I remember you'd prayed so long in the bathroom till dark and thought God took your eyesight. Yeah. So yeah, I still do pray. And let me tell you, if something happened to one of my kids, the first thing I do is call upon the Lord. Just call upon the Lord. Lord, be near us, be with us, help us, walk with us, hold our hand, So my thing is the God that I envision, the God that I think of now, is not petty and so, Eddie's questioning who I am. Eddie wonders if I'm still this or Eddie. God's not. God, that's silly. that's silly to think that God is so self-conscious that he can't stand to be say, that if you even think about what Jesus said when John the Baptist, right before they did away with his head, if I can say that and get by with it on TikTok, on that platter that they gave to that lady, he got real discouraged. He sent his disciples to Jesus, and they went to Jesus and asked Jesus, said, John said, are you really the Christ, or should he look for another? And Jesus said, go back and tell John that the blinded eyes are being healed, the lame are walking, and unto the poor, the gospel is being preached. So I would just tell you this, if John the Baptist, which Jesus said was the greatest prophet ever born to woman, if John the Baptist questioned, who are you, God? What are you, Jesus? My God, you think God's going to be upset if you question any of this? Because you should question all of it. You should question every bit of it. So, because the more you peel that onion and question, the more resolve you have, because the more you understand your own heart, the more you'll understand God's heart, because I got news for you. Once you question it and go down this valley, this road long enough, you might not have got to this place yet, but you'll realize you and God are the same, or y'all are the same. There's no difference between you and God. There's no difference between God and you. And that was the great mystery that Jesus would talk about when he said, Father, I pray that they may be one, even as you and I are one. And so the more you come to know you, the more you'll come to know God, and the more the two of you become one, Donna Salem said, yep, I got there a few months ago. Yeah, Russ says, amen, preach. So anyhow, y'all, I love y'all. Don't ever sign over your spiritual salvation, your spiritual freedom, your spiritual walk. Don't ever sign it over to organized religions and people down on the corner church. Even my Granny Bratcher, even though she was Pentecostal and holiness, and she never wore makeup, women back then didn't wear nothing but dresses anyhow. But I heard her say throughout her life when people are like, I don't think Sister Bratcher's that close to God and this and that and the other, and I don't believe in her way of religion and all. And Granny Bratcher always had this to say about that. She said, man didn't give me this, and man can't take this away from me. This came from heaven. This came from God. What I feel in my heart is God-given. The preacher didn't give it to me. My mom and daddy didn't give it to me. It's what I learned through myself. And I'm telling you, thank you so much. You have me in tears tonight, good tears. Thank you, Russ. My Granny Bratcher, for whatever you can say about her, I know this for a fact. She had the gift of healing in her hands. And when it said, lay hands upon the sick and they shall recover, I saw that happen throughout my Granny Bratcher's life as a young boy. I remember, and I tell this story, I remember in Cabbagetown, we'd walk a lot. I lived on Savannah Street. Granny Bratcher lived on Powell Street. I got deathly sick. I was about 8 years old. I was laying on the bed in the living room. I was so sick I hadn't been out of the bed in 2 days. I was burning up with the fever. My Granny Bratcher, they went to get her, said, Eddie's really sick. She walked from Powell Street, 2 or 3 streets over to Savannah Street. She walked in that living room, and I'm laying on that bed and I'm sick. And she says, how's my sweet baby doing? And, I said, I just didn't know, just Granny, I'm just sick. And I mean, I was just burning up with the fever. She pulled over a chair beside my bed, laid her hands, had big hands, worked in cotton. She laid her hands on my forehead. And she began to say, in Jesus' name, I rebuke this fever. Come off this child. Y'all, say what you will about it. I literally felt that fever go out of my body. Not 2 hours later, not that evening. While her hands were still on my body, I felt that fever go out of my body. Now, people can say, whoa, that's an 8-year-old little child. You don't really know that. You probably just think that happened. Sometimes in life, we know what we know, what we know, what we know. And there's a power and an energy that people can tap into that some call God, some call other things. But there's a whole mystery beyond this flesh and blood that we're in. And I think mankind's always knew it was there. They just weird in how they trying to connect with it and go with it. It's pouring down rain, y'all. So anyhow, love y'all. I'm going to get off here. I done got myself a blessing tonight. Like I told my daughter, Heather, I'm like, I come on here, I don't really have, sometimes I have a little passion in my heart, but I come on here, don't really have nothing to say, but I'm just sitting at the house having tea. I'm like, let's talk for a minute. And then usually by the time that we get off of here, like tonight, I'm going to go in here and just lay on my bed and enjoy the rest of the night and feel like I've done been in church or whatever, or done got a blessing out of all of it. So anyhow, I love y'all. See y'all.